For any professional live streaming production of any event in the UK, Ben TV Livestream are here to serve and provide you with the global coverage you need anywhere at real time. We are offering a deal to accommodate the local events. Just send us an email for more information at livestream@bentelevision.com or call us on 020-8808-8800. Ben TV, Sky 182, bridging the gap.
Welcome back to the Ben Breakfast Show. Hope you've been enjoying the show so far. We had a guest talking about issue going on in Cameroon. If you'd missed it, and we're talking about the English side of Cameroon and the French side of Cameroon and the whole chaos going on. And obviously our guest said that a referendum will be the solution. I think that the people should be left to vote. Should we divide or we should stay as one in Cameroon? And yeah, we had a few callers to calling to give their own contribution. So thank you. Now we have another wonderful guest in the studio today. His name is David Smith. He is the chairman of the British African Business Alliance. And talking about Africa again, we're going to be talking about unemployment, which is a big deal in Africa lately. Welcome, David.
Good morning. It's great to be here.
Joining us on the show. Like I said, we'll be talking about unemployment in Africa, basically. Yes. So, what do you think is the main reason of unemployment in African countries?
The main reason is the structure of the economy.
Yeah.
There's been some very important research done by SMEDAN, the Small and Medium-Sized Development Agency of Nigeria, looking at how employment is structured. And they produced some figures in 2015 that I was looking at in relation to a trip that I did to Nigeria in January. I was the guest of a program called Youths Off the Street, which was looking at this whole area of jobs for young people, training for young people. And fundamentally, you have the major international businesses and the major employers. You have a growing SME sector in the large cities, and the rest of the country is struggling with subsistence. And in the 1 to 9 employees sector, on average, businesses employ 1.4 people.
That's really low.
That's very low.
Yes, very low.
And one of the interesting comparisons I made was, we're fortunate here. We walk out of our house, we walk to the bus stop or to the station, we jump in our car and we drive, and there immediately around us are thousands and thousands and thousands of small and medium-sized businesses providing us with services that we need on a daily basis, whether it's a dry cleaner or a butcher or a baker or a supermarket or whatever it happens to be. And you do the same thing in Nigeria, or in fact in most parts of Africa. You don't have that same resource of local services.
Yeah.
Because people are all in the same boat, all struggling with the same subsistence issues. And I think that this becomes an interesting way of looking at the problem. So what is the problem? There is not an SME sector for Africa as a whole, or for Nigeria in particular.
Yeah.
It's growing, but to replicate what we have here, in the 50 to 200 employee sector, they need to increase by 200 times.
Wow, that's a lot. That's
200 times. In the 10 to 50 sector, it's 84 times. So whatever you're doing at the moment, Nigeria, do it more, 84 times more. That's where it becomes exciting for me, because our work at British African Business Alliance is with business leaders in the diaspora, looking at what we can do together to create businesses and jobs there. Maybe it's invest, maybe it's bring technology, maybe it's bring expertise, and all the rest of those sorts of things.
Yeah.
And it's a project I've been working on for some years.
Interesting.
Do you want to tell us about that?
Well, it started, I suppose, 8 years ago, when a Ugandan friend of mine came to me and said, we've been working together, but I want to talk to you about something. We have a problem in the African community. We don't really have a chamber of commerce.
Yes, true.
And he said, how would you like to be chairman? And I didn't really sort of put the two things together in a very clear way at the time. But we then met and we talked and we brought a group of Pan-Africans together to start looking at what we could do and how we could see different communities actually sharing information and finding things that are being done well in one place and transferring them through basically the Circle Line or the M25. That community in London is hugely diverse, hugely dynamic, and if it actually came together in a strong way, it could be very interesting. So that was the start. And then Chief Bimbo Falayan, who was the former chair of Kanuk, introduced me to Dr. Tafida, and we sat and we talked about diaspora investment into Nigeria. This was, I suppose, 2013, 2012, 2013. So that was the first time I started to look at Nigeria in detail. And the opportunities are huge.
They're huge.
Huge opportunities?
Huge.
Well, I just want to touch on structure. You said, the cause of unemployment. We're going to look at, Pan-Africa, but let's focus on Nigeria.
Yeah.
The unemployment is due to, the structure of the economy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I mean, in your own thoughts, what can be done to improve on that structure? Is it political appointments? Tell us more.
I think that we need to approach it at below the political level. I mean, it is a political issue, but what we need to be thinking about is how do young people get into jobs? At the moment, the Nigerian educational system is producing young people with qualifications of various levels. Like all communities, and I know many people here who come out of the secondary school system with very poor GCSEs, and very limited opportunities. But when they find the right niche, they can soar.
Yeah.
I have a friend who is actually going through that process at the moment. He was always in detention, always having problems with the teachers, always those difficult things.
Yeah.
But where he loves life is on the farm.
Wow.
And he's dealing with cows, he's dealing with tractors, he's doing milking, he's getting up at 5:30 in the morning, he's going to bed at 9:30. He's just a completely changed individual because he's found his vocation. So when I went in January, I was invited by a Youths Off the Street program being put together there. And I started to assemble various different things. The statistics is one side of it. But actually, if you give a young person money and say start a business, it's not going to work. They need mentoring. But if you give them mentoring and money, it's not really going to work. You need to create a fostered environment in which they can apply skills that they've learned. If you train people and you don't give them a job, they forget what you've trained because it's the practical application.
That's very true.
If you trained to be an accountant and you didn't actually work in an accountancy company, you would pretty soon forget the disciplines that you need to apply in that sort of thing. And it would be the same if you trained someone to be a farmer but didn't actually take them onto a farm.
That's true.
A carpenter, a plumber, plasterer, builder, all of those things. And if you look at what Nigeria needs, it needs agriculture, it needs housing. I think 20 million homes is what's required at the moment. And you look at those sorts of things. We need to find ways of fostering young people out of the college system into the vocational training and then into work and create the jobs.
Yeah, I mean, I like what you just said there because I know of a friend who's a qualified lawyer, but they sell cabbages on the market. So, it's quite bad. I mean, it can get bad out there. This is somebody I know in Zambia that, they sell cabbages, but you're a qualified lawyer with...
Another thing is that I think in Africa, there's this thing about believing that, don't get me wrong, education is very important, is key, but they make it seem like it's the only way.
Yeah.
In the sense that, like you said, this boy was in school, he was always in detention, it was this, it was that. But that didn't make him a bad person. It was because they didn't really discover his own niche, his kind of what he likes to do. So, for example, in Africa, they feel you just have to go to school, get your master's, get your PhD, and work in the bank or in the hospital. You know, it's changing a bit, but it's still trending. I think people or African countries should start looking at other options. Like
exactly.
The vocational aspect of it. Opening fashion schools, styling schools.
Drama.
I was just going to come to that. A friend of mine from Uganda just posted on Facebook a little piece of video, and it says, look what a girl can do with a sewing machine.
Yeah.
And it's probably the most coy fashion show I've ever seen, set in a little Ugandan village, and the girls come out of the hut, they do their little turn, and they walk back in again, and they're wearing clothes that they've made in the village themselves. Now, I think that this is the sort of thing that we need to be looking at. And when I talk about Pan-Africa, what's being done well there? What's being done there?
I was actually going to come to that, but then firstly I want to ask, like, you know, when you went to Nigeria, and obviously you did a lot of research and fact-finding, what is it that the Nigerian youths themselves want to do? What's the majority of them?
That's very simple. They want out. They want to go somewhere where they can see they can have what they see on Facebook. they want to come here where they can stand in the rain at the bus stop and get splashed by the bus. They want to come here because they think they're going to drive Mercedes.
Mercedes-Benz, of course. That's a Nigerian, isn't it? With the Mercedes-Benz. But what about the problems? Of course, you've traveled into different African countries. And of course, unemployment is huge in Nigeria. Nigeria is a populous nation.
Absolutely.
But what about the other countries that you visited in Africa who've got a similar problem? Would you say that as well it's the structure of the economy? Is it a common problem?
It is a common problem because actually, most of the developed countries, if we call it that for a second, places like the UK, it was really brought home to me at the Olympics when we had that opening ceremony and we were taken through the industrial revolution in 20 seconds, you know, or 20 minutes.
How they started,
the farmers to the factories. And then you sort of look at Africa and you say, okay, which major company is going to go and put a factory that's going to employ 10,000 people? It's not going to happen.
Why?
Well, because factories don't employ 10,000 people, they employ robots. They employ machines. It's the most efficient way of building a car. You don't have to deal with someone's hangover. You don't have to check that they've tightened that bolt tight enough. Everything is done to a prescriptive point. Now, if you look at Nigeria, you say, okay, 180 million people, how many factories do we need at 10,000 per factory? It's a huge number of factories. But the world doesn't work like that anymore.
So what, apart from, like building factories might have been...
I think it's part of it. I think if you're going to have a car plant, then there are going to be SMEs around that car plant supplying products into it. If you're going to have a mine, then you're going to have a certain number of people working in the mine. If we're working on a project in southeast Nigeria at the moment to put in a glass factory, that will require people. We're talking about 300 in a waste-to-power plant, collecting waste, sorting waste, determining what can go into recycling and what can go into power production. So yes, you can create larger businesses that employ people, but I don't think you can say it's the panacea because it's not going to work in the village.
I think most importantly, adding to what David and Chinade has said, is that yes, the factory might be a solution, but it's not going to help thus far because of the population, because most of the factories are going to use machines. So it's more about empowering the youths, like individually, finding out what they can do, like more like a creative kind of thing. Can you sing? Let's open like a theater school and train you.
More diversity, isn't it?
Yes, for Broadway, acting, sewing, makeup, styling. There are many things you can do. Drawing, arts. So it's more...
Those sorts of things, exactly. But let's make it more practical from the point of view. We have a member of our organisation who makes a machine that will employ 20 people. It makes blocks for building.
Okay.
Generally, where they make those blocks, they're saving 30 to 40% on the cost of local materials. So there's an incentive to look at how you do that. And what I put forward when I was in Nigeria was a copy of something that's happened in Kenya. A microfinance company bought 20 of these machines, took them to Kenya, and over 4 years built 2,000 houses.
Okay.
They moved 2,000 families out of the Kibera slum into those houses. And they created a new environment where their customers, as the microfinance company, were making and building their own houses and buying those houses, 2-bedroom, living room, kitchen, bathroom, toilet,
Just
running water,
and light.
solar power, drainage, kitchen garden for £24 a month.
Wow.
Fantastic.
Wow! Yes, exactly. So, and I appreciate that each community is different and inflation plays a part in this. So
Yes.
we can't promise £24 a month for Nigeria. But
Definitely, but yeah.
but the principle is there. So if you can teach people from the slum to make these houses, you can teach young people in Nigeria to make these houses.
True.
What about source of funding? All this sounds so nice and lovely, but what about source of funding? What can these governments do in terms of outsourcing funds? You mentioned the NVQ training, which is a very welcome move. But then you need the funding to pay the lecturers.
Absolutely.
You need that kind. What can be done to outsource this funding instead of going to beg from European countries? What can we generate our own funds?
Well, I think one needs to look at the property market in detail, because as I went by car from Lagos to Benin, down to Warri, up to Enugu, and across to Auka. So I really got to see Nigeria this time. Not the first class ticket, not the first class hotel, but I actually got to the nitty gritty of how people live their ordinary lives, and I found that was fascinating. But I think you need to look at that property market. There's a lot of property work going on, but a lot of it is to a very poor standard. So there is demand for qualified plumbers, there is demand for qualified electricians, for builders. Now this machine that I was talking about will do roofs. So all those tin roofs could become tiled roofs, which will last longer, which will add value to the property. You asked about value. The mortgage company can give you the funding to do the roof because it improves the value of the property. You still have to pay for it. But we've got a project in Côte d'Ivoire where we're only at an LOI stage at the moment, but we have an impact investor who's committed to bring $250 million to building a certain number of houses for the government. The government's not going to pay for them. The workers of the government will pay for them. They will have mortgages. Those mortgages have been granted. So you've created an environment where there is a potential international funding level that is not begging for donations. It's actually a commercial opportunity.
Oh, I see what you mean.
But if you've got to build 5,000 houses, you need to employ qualified workers. If there aren't qualified workers, you need to train the workers. So the requirement for the vocational college is there in Côte d'Ivoire. And as part of the development, what we would see is the creation of this college. The people who are good at brick making would go on to brick making. The people who aren't good at that but are handy with electrics can go into solar power and electrical. The plumbing's different. We need curtains and all sorts of things. So the fabric and the sewing and all the rest of that comes in too. Food preparation. I'm not much good as a builder, but actually I love the kitchen, and therefore that whole side of it comes in as well.
So it's more of using individuals and their talents to, bring the project alive. So
it's that as well, but underpinned by that international investment. So if I was talking to a state in Nigeria, I'd be saying, okay, so what is your housing requirement at the moment? How much is public? How much is private sector? How much is government? What can be done? And then we can look to find that sort of finance to bring it, and a proportion of that could go to the vocational training. Yeah. I would expect those states to be rich enough to put 5 or 10 vocational training centres into their states to start to do that. But actually what you need is the business requirement, the contract to build 10 houses. Now, if you could give a building company a contract to build 10 houses, and you're fostering them out of this college, you've trained them to use the machinery, they're under the control of an architect and a surveyor, so they're doing it to the right quality standards. You're giving someone a startup business with a guaranteed turnover of $100,000, $150,000, $200,000.
Yeah.
They have the opportunity to make a success of it.
Yeah.
If they come with the right attitude, then they very, very often will.
Yes.
But I think it's looking at how you employ people in that way. And Nigeria and Africa need to find those kickstart projects that will enable that to happen.
Yes, startup.
Yeah, okay. I mean, another note I was going to touch on what you've got at the British African Business Alliance called the Barber Club.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, tell us, what is the Barber Club? Because Barber in my country is a granddad.
Yes.
Or dad.
Barber.
My country is dad. Barber, yeah.
It's such a happy accident that we ended up with this name. Let me tell you about the Alliance. There are lots of diaspora groups here who are working diligently in often a voluntary capacity. And we have decided to collaborate. We're not competing with them. We're never going to be Mr. Nigeria or Mr. Cameroon. We're just going to be assisting in the development of those business communities. So what we really want to do is bring people together and enable business opportunities to happen. Over dinner in Birmingham in October, we put an English entrepreneur together with a Nigerian entrepreneur. We identified an opportunity that turned into a $60 million float glass project that's on a governor's desk at the moment. So, if we get the right results from the survey of the sand, we can bring the investors, we can bring the technology, and we can make that happen.
Okay.
But that was someone who came forward and said, I have this technology, and the other person said, I have the sand. Right. There you have a marriage. Okay, so that's what we do. We bring people together to collaborate.
Okay.
And one of the collaborations we've had is with an organization called NDDIS, Nigeria Diaspora Direct Investment Summits. Yeah. We've done 3, the 4th one is coming up this year. And we're looking at the role that the diaspora plays in making investments into the communities that they represent.
Yeah.
And it may be at a multi-million-dollar level, or it may be at a few $1,000s. I mean, the roof making business starts at about £3,000.
Yes.
The driveway making business starts at $1,600.
Yeah.
There's a detergent manufacturing thing that's about $4,000. So there are lots of different ready-made projects that we bring to this alliance.
Okay.
So
sorry to come in. Do you do startups too? Like, for example, Chinede and I might be thinking of a business. We might want to start like a fashion line.
Yep.
And yes, we have the idea, but we don't have the capital. When we come to British African Business Alliance, what help do we get?
Well, you get help in a number of different ways. The first thing that we'll give you is a project summary.
Okay.
And that is one page on which we get you to write down your dream. Okay? What's your objective? Who are your target markets? What's your current situation? Because you're only going to get money if people believe that you can support that money from your current situation and that your proposed outcome, your planned outcome, is going to deliver a return.
Yes.
Money is not growing on trees unless you happen to own an avocado tree in Africa and you can sell them to Waitrose at £1.50 each. That's a different story. So what we do with the project summary is enable people to put down their dream.
Yeah.
Now, we're working with someone who wants to set up a student accommodation rental agency in the country that he comes from.
Okay.
His plan is when he retires, he's got 2 years to go. So people are thinking quite a long time in advance, which allows them to get their ideas and their advice together.
Yes.
Now, if you've never written a business plan, you don't know how to put it down. The project summary is just a starter. Okay. So we can then introduce you to qualified people who will help you with the business plan. Okay. We're developing a platform where we're bringing experts together to create business builders. Okay? Yeah. So over 8 weeks, you can go into a training program where you talk with the lawyer, you talk with the accountant, the investment advisor, the IT professional, the HR professional. And it was very interesting. One of our Ghanaian accountants said, what I advise people to do is to get up and start selling their product.
Yes.
See how it goes. Do it for 3 or 4 months. Okay. Is it a success?
Before you decide to invest.
And then come back and let's have a conversation. Do you need to start a company?
Okay.
Are you actually making good headway with this? Is the prognostication that it's going to be successful actually coming true? Okay. Or do you need to go back to the drawing board?
Okay. So it's more like a test run. So
yeah.
I advise people to, Chinede and I, whatever business we want to do, we should do a test run for a few months and see if it's actually viable.
Exactly.
Then we can come on board to you and you can give us the possible assistance we need.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it becomes very practical in that in that terms.
Okay.
Then we have entrepreneurs packs. These are ready-made businesses that you can buy with a proven business model, and you can take and you can set up with your cousin or your nephew or your niece or what have you.
So what kind of businesses do you have on the packs?
Well, let's leave the sewing machine.
Well, I was going to come
let's leave the sewing machine for a second, but that is an entrepreneur's pack because you know, you train someone to be able to make a suit or clothes or what have you, then they have a career and opportunity they can take forward.
True.
Bring it back to another thing, we have a freezer.
Wow.
It works on 2 hours of electricity in the morning and 2 hours in the evening. So it can run off a solar panel, it can run off a small generator. It makes $30,000 worth of ice per year in South Africa. Now, to make ice, you need the electricity to make it cold, and you need the water.
Yes.
And you need the person to fill the tanks.
Yeah.
So it's a very low overhead.
And you can get
2 freezers, you're making $60,000 a year. Does that sound like a nice business?
Oh, it sounds very delicious.
Now, tell me which fishing village in Nigeria or in Africa as a whole doesn't need that freezer?
Everyone needs it.
Exactly.
Even for water.
So what we're doing with the Alliance is bringing these ideas together and saying people, you know, these are opportunities.
Oh, nice.
Nice. Well, I mean, before we wind up, of course, British African Business Alliance. How long have you been in operation?
Well, we started in 2009, but we incorporated in 2015. So,
all right, okay. You know, the English have this saying that you know, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. In Nigeria, they say the proof of the pepper is in the fish, isn't it? Or it's in the meat. Yeah. What's been one of your biggest achievements so far in terms of Africa? That you know, the viewers that are watching there, I'm sure there's quite a lot of viewers there that would like to pick up the phone after this or checking the website. I'm sure they're Googling right now. They're on Google trying to see what you're about. But what have you achieved so far?
Well, I think that we need to recognize some of the issues. And what I've learned is that I'm not selling a business. What I've learned is that I'm selling trust and confidence.
Fantastic.
What the community has a problem with is, who are you? Where are you from? Can I trust you?
Yes.
And what we say is that by becoming a member of British African, you say you're serious about what you want to do.
Yeah.
I was talking to a lady yesterday about a training program that is probably going to cost $200,000-300,000 to put in place. Wow. And I'm saying to her, so are you joining as a company or as an individual? Oh, I'm joining as an individual. I said, well, that's fine. But when you become a company, because this is going to require you to become a company, then you need to upgrade to represent your status. Because actually it's not about doing something for the least possible money. It's about doing something right.
Yes.
And getting the right resources together to be able to take your plan and turn your idea, your dream, your when I go back, I'm going to
do this.
Exactly.
So if any, because obviously we have to wrap up now, time not always on our side. Thank you so much. But
before you say that, I was going to ask him that, did you enjoy Nigerian food? And if you did, what did you eat?
Oh, I all sorts of things, but I particularly enjoy jollof rice.
Jollof rice.
Jollof
I
rice.
love jollof rice. And moi moi. Did you try moi moi?
I tried moi moi.
You see, I know what they like. Don't worry, the next time you come, we'll give you jollof and moi moi, but not too spicy.
No, I'm very happy with the spice,
Really?
actually, yes.
Okay,
yes.
nice.
Yeah.
Yes, so I would just like you to give the viewers your information in case anyone you're out there, you're thinking of starting a new business or you already have an existing business and obviously you need support, advice, capital. You can get in touch with David. And David, I think you should just give out your details.
Yes, my name's David Smith. I'm the chairman of British African Business Alliance. Our website is www.britishafrican.org. Remember, it's not British Africa, it's britishafrican.org.
Contact number?
Contact number for me directly is 07957 871 470. The best way to get through to me is to drop me an email through the website. Okay. Otherwise, you just won't get through. Won't get through.
Okay, so the email address again is, the website is www.britishafrican.org as an O-R-G. So yes, go on the website, try and drop an email for David.
There are forms you can fill there and there's information you can get.
So if you have a
anything
business,
that comes through there will come
David
to me.
will respond. A business existing, you're about to start a business, or you just need advice on, how to do a business. So yeah, get in touch with David. David, thank you so much for joining us on the show. We'll go on a short break now, as usual, and our business segment starts very soon. We'll be right back. Thank you.
182, Bridging the Gap.